Hello, everybody. How are you? I hope you're having a good day or have had a good day. And I want to take this time to say thank you for tuning in to me once again. You know, I really do appreciate you all and your support. And welcome to another edition of TJ's Topics. And as you already know by now, I am TJ. And it's so good to see you once again. I want to come to you today. I'm gonna try to be as brief as I can, but I just want to come on to discuss something with you that I think most of us all who are active on social media are familiar with. You know, and that is deleting and blocking. Deleting and blocking. Those two terms have become very familiar to all of us on social media. And for those of us who have been on social media for a long time, I'm sure that we've had to use those two buttons a whole lot at one time or another. I know I have. In fact, I had to delete and block somebody on my friends list this morning on Facebook, and I didn't really, um, think that our conversation, what I sent him, was anything, bad, but apparently he did. So I went on and just keep down confusion. I deleted and blocked the individual, and just let it be. Just said forget it, because uh, everything doesn't need a response. Everything doesn't need extra attention. And sometimes that's what people seek after. When it comes to little petty stuff, they want you to give it more of your time and more of your attention, all in an effort to keep you involved and get you all riled up and everything. And I seriously, I don't have time for that, because as I've told people, I tell people all the time, I don't really care anything about social media to begin with. I mean, my only purpose for being on social media is for entertainment. Like they used to say at the end of those old psychic hotline commercials years ago, the little fine print at the bottom on the screen: for entertainment purposes only. And that's the only reason why I'm on social media. In fact, that's the only reason why I opted to remain on social media these many years later, because I was actually planning to abandon social media altogether about seven about 7 or 8 years ago, probably around about 2015, 2016. I was planning to get off of social media. I mean, I'm talking about Facebook, Instagram. I tried Twitter at one time, but I couldn't get that mess right, so I left that alone. And then I actually go back a little further. Let me take you back over 20 years ago, when I was in my early 20s. Now this was when all this stuff was like in the very early stages, just before Facebook came into being. Some of you may remember this platform called Black Planet. Well, I was on Black Planet back when I was in college. Um, I think I set my page up. Had to have been around 2001 when I set it up, and I was 21 years old. And the idea of social media at that time was unheard of. I'm talking about, look, 2001. We had just entered into the 21st century. Remember now, we still had VCRs and I mean, and very few people at that time had DVD players and I don't think anybody had heard of an MP3 or Blu-ray and there definitely wasn't any tablets like we have now. These tablets and Chromebooks and all that kind of stuff. So so that just goes to show you how far we've come over the last 2 decades or so and how technology has advanced to where we are today. But with the advancement of technology has come a whole lot of extra stuff. And so now we have all these social media platforms and the way I see it, social media has created an avenue for all of the Looney Tunes to come out and have a platform. It has given them a space where they can, air out their dirty laundry and they can tell people off. They can cuss folk out and say whatever they want to say to people without fear of, any consequences or anything like that being dealt with. And it has empowered them to just say whatever the hell they want to say to anybody at any time. And so that leads to us who simply don't have time for crap like that and all the foolery to press two buttons to eradicate them once and for all. And that is delete and block. And believe me, I have no problem using those two buttons. Just like I used them this morning and I used them a little bit more this afternoon. At the time of this taping, that is, because you may not see this until Monday morning or Monday evening. So this is on Sunday when I'm taping it. And I deleted and blocked some folk. and I have been doing that for years. I mean, and not just me doing it to others, but others have done it to me. The thing that attracted me most to social media in the first place was, well, somebody I went to school with had sent me an email. This was back in 2009, at the beginning of 2009. Whoever it was I went to school with, they sent me an email inviting me to join Facebook. And so I accepted their invitation and I joined. And I didn't know anything about it. It was still pretty new. Facebook was created in 2004 by Mark Zuckerberg, or as some call him, Mark Effenberg. I ain't gonna say the word. I'm gonna try to be nice and kind. But anyway, I wasn't on there in 2004. I didn't hear anything about it until 2009. And I was 29 years old at the time. Now, mind you, at this point, when I first joined Facebook, I had already lived a good portion of my life without social media. Like I don't really consider Black Planet all that much because I didn't know what I was doing on that anyway. So, but as it is today, 29 years old at that time, and I consider myself blessed and fortunate to have been born when I was, even when there wasn't a whole lot of technology around. We still had TVs with knobs on them and rabbit ears and stuff. So therefore, there wasn't any deleting and blocking going on back in the late 70s and the 80s and and the early 90s. We weren't doing all that. And the way we deleted and blocked folks back then was, we had landline phones. And if somebody called us, remember now, there was no call ID in the 70s and 80s and 90s. So if somebody called our phone, if we didn't want to talk to them, we either would just ease the phone down gently and hang up in their face, or we would just lay the receiver down and just walk away. That's how we did back then, because there was no call ID. And since there was no call ID, we couldn't delete and block anybody. So I think that technology has been good, in the sense that it has afforded us the ability to do the things that we do now. And it has helped society to a certain extent. But then you still got all these crazy folk out here who, for some reason or another, feel like it's their God-given right to bully people and scorn people and abuse people through their platforms. Inboxing them and saying all kind of crazy stuff. That's the reason why we have so many children, young people, teenagers and young adults who are suffering from severe cases of depression. And to make matters worse, many of them have committed suicide as a result of somebody reaching out to them in the wrong way, saying something they didn't have any business, and pulling these people down, causing them all types of mental and emotional issues to the point where they decide that they've had enough. And that's sad, But all this has to do with technology and social media, or using it for the wrong purposes. I can't blame technology, and I'm not going to blame technology. Technology is a good thing, to be honest, but it's the way people use technology that becomes a problem. And so that's why I'm glad that we have those two buttons on our keypads, on our keyboards, as well as our keypads on our phone, delete and block. Because all you got to do when somebody starts talking to you the wrong way and saying stuff that they don't have any business, you just kindly go in there and you delete and block and have yourself a good day. That's all you got to do. And so, like I said, I'm so thankful to have been a part of the last generation of children who grew up without the internet and who grew up without social media. Having lived the first 29 years of my life without social media for the most part, and 18 of those years without the internet, because my first introduction to the internet was when I was 18 and starting college. So, and back then, we had to reach over behind the computer to turn it on. It's not like these new computers. Now you got the button in the front. Our old computers, you had to reach over behind it to turn it on. So I tell you, time has really brought about a change. In many cases for the better, but in some cases for the worst. So tell me your thoughts on social media and how you feel with regards to deleting and blocking people. Some people don't care to do that for whatever reason. Like even if you get into a disagreement, and we all get into disagreements, nobody's going to see eye to eye on everything all the time. But there's a way to disagree. You can disagree with each other and still maintain a sense of friendliness and mutual respect towards one another. But some people, when they get into a disagreement, they go berserk. I mean, they take on the Burger King mentality. They used to say, "Have it your way." Well, those people, some of these people on social media, they feel like they got to have it their way or no way at all. So I just said, forget them. Thank you so much for tuning in to me today. I hope you've enjoyed the little time that I spent with you, and I want to thank you so much for the little time that you spent with me. And feel free to like, and comment, and subscribe, and share if you will. Tell your friends about my show, and I tell you, I would really appreciate it if you have them to tune in, and feel free to spread the word because I really want this to have a positive impact on the lives of somebody, if at all possible. I really do, and I will forever be grateful to you. All right. Thank you once again for tuning in to me. This has been TJ's Topics. Okay. And be sure to tune in next time when I present another little topic of interest, whatever's on my mind, because it usually be some on my mind when I come on here. Thank you so much. I'm Taryn Jerome Harris, reminding you that every round goes higher and higher. And I trust that your round will go higher and higher as well. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.